All right, so now we can look at applications involving simple interest. And so this is concept 2 of that section on percents. So let's remind ourselves about simple interest. So simple interest is interest that is earned or owed on principal. And remember, principal is the original amount of money invested or borrowed. The following formula is used to compute simple interest. So, so let me go ahead and just kind of show this much. So remember, you may remember that phrase, interest equals principal times rate times time. So that's a simple interest formula. So this is a simple interest formula. So simple interest, which we'll define as I for interest, is going to be principal. Principal is going to be labeled as P, the capital P. The annual interest rate, which will be lowercase r, and the time, which needs to always be in years. All right, so if it's in months, you must convert months to years. So for example, 6 months, you divide 6 by 12 and you get a half. So this is in months, if the time is in months, always divide by 12 to convert it to years. But that's the interest formula, simple interest formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. So let's go ahead and kind of indicate that again. So this I right here means interest. Okay, so the interest, and always convert that to a decimal. I'm sorry, the rate will convert to a decimal, excuse me. So that's your interest. So how much interest you've earned. P is the principal. So remember, principal is the amount borrowed or the amount invested. The R is the rate, the interest rate. And you want to convert, and you always want to write that as a decimal. Okay, a decimal. And then T is the time. And remember, it must always be in years. Okay, always be in years. All right, so that's the simple interest formula. Interest equals principal times rate times time. All right, so let's look at this first example. How much interest will Dave have to pay if he borrows $3,000 for 2 years at a simple interest rate of 5%? Now, that's the easiest problem you can have. And the reason is that's the easiest problem you can have. Well, first of all, it says in simple interest, so you know you're going to use this formula, all right? And you're asked to find how much interest he will have to pay. So that's at I. So you're just trying to find I here and not P, not R, not T, because that's already given in here. So you can use this formula, interest equals principal times rate times time. I is what you're trying to find, right? So I equals the principal. Remember, the principal is the original amount he borrowed. So he borrowed $3,000. So that's the principal, 3,000, times the rate, which is at 5%. But remember, we must convert the rate to a decimal. So 5% as a decimal is 0.05. T is the time, and time must be in years, and it is. You see where it says 2 years? So times 2. And then all you do is use your calculator to multiply these three numbers together. And so the interest will be 3,000. All right, so 3,000 times 0.05 times 2 equals 300. All right, so I equals 300. So what that represents is that Dave will have to pay in interest $300. So Dave pays $300 in interest. And that's in over 2 years. Okay? All right, so that's example 1. All right, let's look at example 2. Example 2. All right, now, Mary wants to save money to buy a car in 4 years. If Mary needs to have $18,350 at the end of 4 years, how much money would need to be invested in a certificate of deposit, a CD, at a 3.5% interest rate? All right, so you may say, well, that looks too complicated. It really isn't. Let's just think about what we have here. So remember, we want to determine how much money needs to be invested, right? How much money needs to be invested. So that's our principal. So we're going to let P equal the original amount invested. Original amount invested. Okay? And so let's think about what we have here. So Mary needs to have this much money right here, right? And you got to think about what this represents. This money represents the original amount plus the interest she's going to earn from that CD. So the equation I'm going to use is going to involve this right here plus something else. So we're still going to have to use this formula, but we also have to think about it with regards to something else as well. So here's what I want you to think about. So the original principal that Mary's going to invest, so the original principal plus the interest Mary earns will equal the total amount she needs. Okay? And remember, the total amount she needs is $18,350. So the original principal, I don't know what that is. That's what I'm trying to find. So I'm going to call that P right here. So P plus, and remember, interest is principal times rate times time, right? That's interest. Principal times rate times time. So plus PRT equals the total amount needed, which is $18,350. So let's go ahead and fill in what we know. We don't know P, so I'm going to rewrite P. So I'm going to say P plus, and then P times the rate, which I do know. The rate is 3.5%. But remember, we must always convert the percent to a decimal. So that's going to be 2 places to the left. So that's going to be 0.035 times the time, which we know is going to be in 4 years. So time is 4. And that's going to equal 18,350. All right, so there's my equation. All right, I have an equation with one unknown. The unknown is P. Now notice P is listed twice, but that's not difficult to deal with. Okay, so let's go ahead and multiply these two numbers together here. So I get P plus, all right, now on your calculator, 0.035 times 4 equals 0.14. So this is P times 0.14, okay, equal 18,350. But we know that P times 0.14 means the same thing as this, P plus 0.14P equal 18,350. And I know from a section we talked about last week that these two terms are like terms. So this right here is going to be a 1. 1, if you need to, use your calculator. 1 plus 0.014 equals 1.14. So when I add these two terms together, I get 1.14p equals 18,350. And so now all you have to do is to solve for p. So we're now multiplying p by 1.14. So the opposite of, let me go and rewrite this over. So the opposite of multiplying by 1.14 is to divide by 1.14 both sides. And so when I do that, 1.14 divided by itself is 1. 1 times p is p, equal, and then on a calculator, let's see what this is. So I get 18,350 divided by 1.14 equals, and I get this number that has some many digits behind it, right? And so what I have so far is this. All right, so I have equal 16096.49123. Okay, but remember we're talking about money here. We're talking about money, and so when we talk about money, we think of this in terms of rounded to the nearest cent. But sometimes you'll be told to round to the nearest whole dollar. But remember, you're investing this money right here. So when you talk about investing money, we tend to do this. This is what we tend to do. We tend to round this off, round to or round up to the nearest dollar. Round up to the nearest dollar. All right, so round up nearest dollar. So the best way to answer this question is to say to the nearest dollar. Um, so it says round up, right? So we're going to round up. Um, so we round up. It's not round two. It's round up. So round up means to make the number larger than this decimal. So 16,096 point whatever this is, rounded up to the nearest dollar is 16,097. So you can say P is approximately equal to $16,097. All right, and so then you would say Mary invested $16,097 initially. Okay. All right. So that is example number 2. It's a lot of work, but it's not that difficult as long as you understand the idea behind what we wrote here. The original principal plus the interest equals the total amount, and then you just use your formulas. All right, let's look at number 3. So in number 3, we have this. Marie invested some money in her bank account, and after 10 years at 3%, it has grown to $6,880. And then what was the initial amount invested? So let's talk about that same idea. So this is what we're interested in. We're interested in finding that initial amount invested. That's the principal. So let's go ahead and let P equal the original amount invested. All right, and so we know that whatever she had invested, well, whatever she originally put in, has now grown to this amount. All right, so the reason it increased is because of that interest. This initial amount has earned some interest at 3%. And so what we have is this. We have the principal plus the interest equals the total, right? And so we have the principal plus, remember the simple interest formula is PRT equals the total. And so we can rewrite this as this. So the principal is what I'm trying to find. So P plus P times the rate, which is 3%, so that's 0.03, times the time, which is 10 years, equals, and has grown to this amount. So it's grown to $6,880. And then using a calculator, I have P plus 0.03 times 10 is 0.3 using your calculator. So you have 0.03 times 10 is 0.3 or 3/10. So 0.3 P equal 6,880. And then combining like terms, 1P plus 0.3P is 1.3P equals 6,880. To get P by itself, we're going to divide both sides by 1.3. And then using a calculator, we may have to approximate, just like we did here. So it's the direction will probably say something like round up to the nearest dollar. Okay, the nearest whole number, nearest dollar. So 6,880 divided by 1.3 equals, all right, so we round up. So there's 5,292. Now remember, we're not rounding off, we're rounding up. So since this is bigger than 0 here, we're going to, this 2 right here is going to become a 3. So 5,293. So $5,293. All right. So the amount invested, so Marie invested $5,293. Okay? All right, so that's number 3. All right, let's look at number 4. So in number 4, kind of the same idea. If $8,000 grows to $9,880 in 5 years, find the simple interest rate. So this time you want to find the interest rate. But you're going to use the same idea. You're going to use the same idea right here. Okay? So you have the remember 8,000 here represents the principal, and it's grown to this amount. So that's your total. So we know that P plus the interest equals the total. The principal plus the interest equals the total. So we also know that the principal plus the interest formula, which is PRT, equals the total. And I'm trying to find that interest rate, right? So I'm going to let X equal the interest rate, which is going to be R. So the principal, you got to make sure you understand which one's the principal. The principal is this amount here because it's grown to this amount. So this was the original. So 8,000 plus, and then P 8,000 times R, which is X, which is what I'm trying to find, times the time, which is 5, equals the total in that account, which is 9,800. And then using a calculator to figure this part out, 8,000 times 5 is 40,000. So I have 8,000 plus 40,000x equal 9,800. All right, now be careful what you have. So in the past, in the previous 2 problems, so you have to be careful. In the previous 2 problems, we said 1 plus 0.3 was 1.3 p because those were like terms. But be careful, these are not like terms. So don't say 8,000 plus 40,000 is 48,000. Those are not like terms. All right, so you got to see this is the only term that has that variable x in it. So what we got to do is got to bring this 8,000 to the other side. So I'm going to need to subtract 8,000 from both sides. Remember, what you do to one side, you do to the other. So when I combine like terms, I get 40,000x equal, and that's going to be 1,800. And then to get x by itself, you can divide both sides by 40,000. And when you do that, you're going to get, let's see if you can approximate. You get 1,800 divided by, and that's 40,000. 40,000. Make sure you put enough zeros. So you need 40,000 equal, and then 0.045. 0.045. Now remember, always remember, you're trying to find that interest rate, right? So you got to convert that to a percent. So as a percent, this will be with the decimal point 2 placed to the right. So that's going to be 4.5%. So that's the answer. Okay? So the interest rate, the simple interest rate, is 4.5%. All right. And so that, I think, is the second concept. So this is the applications involving simple interest.